Mr. Minasyan, thank you so much for taking the time to do this short interview on the Karabakh conflict and the aftermath and the political crisis in Armenia. So my first question is about the trilateral agreement and the ceasefire. How stable is it in your opinion? What could destabilize the situation right now?
I guess, first of all, we should take into account that it's a ceasefire agreement. It's not a peace agreement. And though Azerbaijani leader is announcing that the Karabakh conflict is over, it's not like that, because again, we have only peace agreement, no peace agreement. The trilateral statement is very important because it was reaffirming the security and restoring the peace in the region. But anyway, it's not addressing one of the key elements of the conflict, is the right of the self-determination of Artsakh. So this question, this issue is open still. And of course, there can be no political solution without the implementation of the right of the self-determination. First of all, beside that, it's very important the full implementation of the ceasefire agreement. First of all, official Yerevan also raises the problem of the pause. As you know, Azerbaijan is refusing to return all Poles and other detainees, which is a problem. And in fact, Azerbaijan is refusing, is violating the cease agreement, which is not right. And of course, it creates some risks for the further implementation of the ceasefire agreement. And Armenian side is trying to, Armenian side is in contact with the key mediator, Russian Federation in this, and with other actors. First of all, France and the US, because they are also co-chairs of the Minsk, OSCE Minsk group. So Armenian side is trying to make Azerbaijan to return its citizens, which is very important. Of course, without full implementation of the agreement, there are serious risks for the further situation in the region. And Azerbaijan, of course, Azerbaijan's behavior is very destructive in this situation, because beside that, Azerbaijan is trying to put forward some new demands, some new conditions. Azerbaijan is trying to take under its control the Lachin corridor, which is also another problem. But anyway, Armenian side is always citing the trilateral agreement, and Armenian side is not going to do some more concessions than Armenia is obliged to do.
I understand, and forgive me if this question is too speculative, but once all the steps of the agreement are implemented, since you said they aren't, what could be the next steps after that?
First of all, it's very early to predict what can happen, because in the trilateral statement, there are some very uncertain points also. For example, about the communications. As you know, in January, the leaders of Armenia, Azerbaijan, and Russian Federation met in Russia, and they came to the conclusion that a special commission should be formatted for this, which will work on this issue. And now it's working, but there are not certain results. And one of the problems is that many other humanitarian problems are still unresolved. And I mentioned already one of them. It's the problem with the Poles. Beside that, there are other humanitarian problems also. For example, Azerbaijan blocks any humanitarian access to Artsakh, including the UN-led assistance missions, which is not right in this situation, and of course it's also a violation of the ceasefire announcement. So first of all, I guess the sides should resolve all the humanitarian problems and then try to step forward and to try to cooperate in more complicated aspects like communication part. And again, Armenian side is now motivated in the blockading of the communications because as you know, more than 20 years, Azerbaijan was blockading Armenia with the support of Turkey, and now in Armenia there are some discussions that the blockading of the communications it can boost the Armenian economy. Of course, there are not some clear calculations, but anyway, there are already such kind of discussions. From the other side, it's very important also who will control these communications, because first there is no trust to Azerbaijan, because Azerbaijan continues its Armenophobic policy, and in this situation we have a lack of trust mutually, and in this situation of course there are some risks with concerning the security issues, and of course for the first period there will be some serious problems. That's why Armenian side is raising also the problem of the security of that communications. Okay, we will operate that, we will open the communication, but who can guarantee the security of that, for example, the railways? And again, there are some options that Russian peacekeepers can take some role in this situation, but again, there are many other open questions, open issues.
You mentioned Russian peacekeepers just now. How do you evaluate the role of outside players like Turkey and Russia in this conflict and in the aftermath?
First of all, it's very important to provide a comprehensive assessment of the role of the Turkey in this situation. Turkey is one of the regional countries which is destabilizing the situation all around. First of all, in 2020, we saw how Turkey is destabilizing the situation in Syria, then in the Eastern Mediterranean region, then in Libya, and of course, at the end of the year, Turkey took active role in Karabakh Conflict. Turkey openly was supporting Azerbaijan, and you know that there was a transfer of thousands of foreign terrorist fighters and mercenaries from the Middle East, especially from Syria. There was a transfer of mercenaries from Syria to Nagorno-Karabakh, and it was directly coordinated by Turkey. And in this case, it's making obvious that Turkey had very negative role in this conflict, and because of the Turkey, Azerbaijan was acting more aggressively in this situation. Besides that, there was also a test, and of course, Turkey, without Turkish support, the chances that Azerbaijan could start and could win the second Artsakh war, the chances are very low. Anyway, in regard the Russian peacekeepers, of course, Russia had very hard situation because of the Russia was in very hard situation because of the war. First of all, Russia had as one of the co-chairs of the OSCE Minsk group had to keep the balance between the sides, and that position helped Russia to become one of the key mediators for the ceasefire. You know that France and the USA also tried to mediate for a ceasefire announcement, ceasefire agreement, but they failed. Russian side also once failed, but anyway, in November 9 they succeed, and now and they reached a trilateral statement. And in this situation, I guess it's obvious that Russia has a completely new role in the region. It's a fact, and it's obvious also that other co-chairs also are interested in to balance the new role that Russia got in this situation. And of course, it's very important that the co-chairmanship of the OSCE Minsk group should be more strong. And it's very important also that the other co-chairs should balance. There should be a balance within the co-chairmanship of the Minsk group. We can see some steps by France, we can see some steps by the US, but they are still a little bit passive in this situation. And of course, I guess here the geopolitical factors are also matters, and especially the new administration of the US, they are more interested to become more active in the South Caucasus, and perhaps the new active role of Russia is a challenge for them also. That's why they are trying to become more active and to restore the balance within the co-chairmanship of the Minsk group.
I understand. And in the aftermath of the ceasefire agreement, there's been a political crisis in Armenia, especially lately. There's going to be elections earlier than planned in June. Can you give me a short assessment of this crisis and what do you expect of the elections?
Mm-hmm. So after the November 9 ceasefire, Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan's political future seemed to be over. But anyway, he managed to keep the power and to mobilize some part of the society around him. But anyway, there was a mobilization in the opposition field also, and 17 opposition parties came together, and they were demanding the resignation of the prime minister. The many actors joined their demand. The president of Armenia, the Catholicos of Armenia, some circles of society joined the demand, and of course we had a situation where the political crisis was becoming deeper and deeper, and there were also street protests which were destabilizing the situation in Yerevan, in Armenia, and there were the governmental party was suggested. The ruling party suggested that parliamentary fractions sign a memorandum not to replace the prime minister if he steps down after the early elections, and they were insisting that opposition might agree to referendum over the new constitution, but the parliamentarian opposition was refusing these demands, But after some consultations, they came to compromise, and it was a verbal compromise, and they announced that the best way out to the current political crisis is the early parliamentary elections, and they will take place on June 20. And what's interesting that only parliamentary opposition came to the compromise about the political crisis. Some other oppositional parties, some oppositional parties are refusing the idea of snap parliamentary elections, and they already announced that they are not going to participate. But some other oppositional parties, which are one of the key parties within the 17 oppositional parties, they already announced that they are not supporting the idea that the elections will be organized by Nikol Pashinyan as a prime minister, but anyway they will participate in the elections. And I guess the upcoming months would be very decisive for the future of Armenia. And there are some hopes that anyway it would be possible to overcome the political crisis through parliamentary elections. But of course, there are some concerns that after the elections, there can be stability with the results of the elections. And it's very important, it's very interesting that according to some public opinion polls, Pashinyan retains support in Armenia. According to the polls of IRI, International Republican Institute, Pashinyan still has the support of about 30% of Armenians. And what's interesting, about 40% of the population, they are not supporting any of power. So they have apathy, they have disappointment, and in this situation, it would be it's very there is an open question: which party will be able to attract this electorate? And nobody can answer, because the oppositional, the most active oppositional parties, they are representing the previous regime, which the population consider them as corrupted and as powers which are corrupted and has some contacts with previous oligarchs. And in this situation, the major part of the population, they are not supporting any power in Armenia, and of course they would like to have an alternative power in this situation, alternative for a party which will not be in contact with the ruling party and will not have any connection with the previous regime. But unfortunately, there is no such kind of power yet, and people will wait for it. Otherwise, we will have not so active participation in the elections.
I understand. So, but do you think that Pashinyan will succumb to the pressure of the opposition to not run again? Or do you think he's definitely running?
I guess they had already the decision that anyway, the best way out of the current political crisis would be the snap parliamentary elections. Besides that, they are realizing that snap elections are the best option to reaffirm their legitimacy in this situation. But anyway, the other key problem was the term of the election, when they are going to organize it. And and initially the opposition parties were not, parliamentarian opposition was not supporting this idea, and they had the idea that it would be better to have a temporary government which will organize the elections, because but anyway, due to the consultations, the ruling party could reach the compromise with them, and of course, I guess the date of the parliamentary snap elections are also is a result of the compromise, and because probably the ruling party would prefer to have snap elections later this one, but the parliamentary opposition insists that we should have early parliamentary election as soon as it's possible, and in this regard, June 20, I guess it's very is a result of a compromise.
I understand. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
And for the interesting input. Have a nice day. Thank you so much.